Hi Year 11, welcome to this GCSE Religious Studies video for Buddhist practices. This is everything you need to know for this topic. Please make sure to take notes or turn this information into a mind map. Feel free to pause the video and watch it at your own pace. So, for Buddhist practices, what do we need to know? There's quite a lot of different topics about how Buddhists practice their religion, and also how each of these different things links to their beliefs and teachings. So the first thing we need to find out about is the different places of worship, so temples, shrines, viharas or monasteries, halls for meditation called gompas, and key features like a Buddha Rupa, artifacts and offering. We also need to know about puja, which is worship, the role of puja in the home and the temple, things like chanting as part of worship, and mental concentration, reciting mantras and the use of malas. We need to know about meditation, specifically two different types, samatha and vipassana meditation, as well as visualizing the Buddha and different bodhisattvas. We need to know about death and mourning practices, so especially in Japan and Tibet. We need to know about festivals and retreats, so Vesak and Parinirvana Day. And then finally, we end the topic by looking at Buddhist ethics. So we look at the idea of karma and rebirth, compassion or karuna, and loving kindness or metta. The 5 precepts as well, which we need to know. They come up again and again and again in themes as well. And the 6 perfections in Mahayana Buddhism, which is something that people often forget to revise, which may come up. So it's really important that we know about the 6 perfections. So the first thing we are going to look at is the Buddhist places of worship, their features and meanings. So we are going to look at the shrine, the temple, and monasteries. So the basics: why do Buddhists worship if they don't believe in a deity? They don't believe there's a God. So Buddhists do not believe in a personal God. Worship is not about asking or requesting things. Some Buddhists believe that worship, so giving offerings to a statue, meditation, chanting, can produce positive karma, so it can make karma for others. Others believe it only has benefits to the person, and that it helps them get enlightenment, it helps them realize the truth about the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings. Buddhists do not worship the Buddha. They don't see him as a god. He's just a man, he's just a human. They might show gratitude towards him, however he's not revered in the same way as God is in Christianity, as he was a man whose life story holds many truths to them and is an example of how to live their lives. And worship is an important tool to reach enlightenment, and worship supports Buddhist teachings. You know, the truth of the Dharma, you can only understand it if you reflect on it. So the first thing is temples. So these are the heart of the Buddhist community. They, in a Buddhist country, you will see lots and lots of different temples where the monks, the bhikkhus, will stay. So they often include a main hall or building. This is where Buddhists will practice together. There will be a statue of the Buddha. In a Mahayana temple, there will be statues of the different bodhisattvas. They will be just as prominent as a statue of Siddhartha. There will be a meditation hall. So in Tibetan Buddhism, it's actually called a gompa. There will be a study hall to study Buddhist texts. Again, there's thousands and thousands of Buddhist books that they could be studying. There will be a shrine which is dedicated to the Buddha or to bodhisattvas, if in a Mahayana temple. And there will be a pagoda or stupa. This is a tiered mound, so different layers to it, that is sometimes used to store relics. So it might be items associated with the Buddha, and this is a holy site. So, a pagoda then. A pagoda is designed to symbolize the 5 Buddhist elements of earth, water, fire, air, and wisdom. Have a look at that picture. This is a 5-story pagoda in Japan, one of the oldest wooden buildings in the world, so a very old building, ancient site for Buddhists. Earth is at the bottom of the pagoda, so it reaches upwards to the spire, which represents wisdom. Okay. The next bit is a stupa. A stupa is a small dome-shaped building. So you can see the difference in that image there between a stupa and a pagoda. So when Buddha died, it was believed that after his cremation, his ashes and different relics of his were sent to different places for veneration. Veneration is a really good word to use in the exam. It just means to show great respect to. Stupas were built to contain his ashes, or the ashes of deceased monks or nuns, important bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. And some Buddhists might believe that these have particular powers, so offering protection. So a good question to ask, and one to raise if you had a question on temples in the exam, is there a contradiction between venerating someone like the Buddha and the idea of anatta? So if Buddha taught about there being no self, why are we going to his ashes to venerate them, to praise him, almost like as if he was a saint in Christianity? So you could maybe raise that in the exam. That would be a really good point to use, and the examiner would be very impressed with that. Okay, so shrines. So this is an area where the focus is on the statue of the Buddha. He's usually sitting cross-legged in a meditation pose. There are lots of different poses that Buddha can be sat in. It can be in home or the temple, and it's the focus point for Buddhist meditation. So Buddhists will typically make offerings at the shrine, paying respect and gratitude to the Buddha for his Dharma. So a good quote to use, and the only quote you need to use for shrines, is the time and effort to keep the shrine clean is considered a skillful activity, and that was said by a Tibetan Buddhist monk. Skillful actions as well. Again, in Buddhism, when we're talking about ethics, we don't talk about good or bad. We talk about skillful and unskillful. We never talk about good or bad when we're talking about Buddhist ethics. Yeah, right and wrong in Buddhism is relativist. It's not absolutist like Christianity. It's relativist. So we can only talk about actions being skillful and unskillful. And the word for skillful actions in Buddhism is upaya kasala. So upaya kasala means skillful actions or skillful means. So why do we think shrines are important to Buddhists? Well, there are a few reasons. Setting up a shrine makes any place a place of worship. They can be set up in the home. Worship can take place anywhere at any time. It doesn't have to be in a temple. Worship at a shrine might be seen as merit making as well, so making merit or making good karma. Items are placed on a shrine are a focus for meditation, so an image of the Buddha might make believers or worshippers want to develop the same qualities that Buddha had, maybe compassion, maybe patience, and it might allow them to have better insight into Buddha's teachings, such as the first precept. Some things on the shrine are a reminder of Buddhist teachings. Buddhists will focus on these ideas in worship, such as flowers for impermanence. So flowers are typically put on shrines. The light of candles represents enlightenment. Incense, so the smell, represents the spreading of compassion to all living things. So monasteries. So monasteries are also known as viharas. They are buildings where the community of Buddhist monks or nuns, bhikkhus or bhikkhunis, live. So the people who live in the monastery have chosen to dedicate their entire life to Buddhism. They practice their religion, they meditate, they study the Buddha's teachings. They live a simple lifestyle, but the monastery should be self-sufficient. So although they might go into to lay Buddhists to get food, the monastery should be able to survive without needing to do anything to make money or anything like that. So the different features so far we spoke about. Again, this is really useful to know all of these different elements to Buddhist places of worship. So the first one is the temple. Again, that's just a meeting place where Buddhists can meet for events, listen to the monks, give dana, so give offerings. The community is needed to transmit the Dharma, so the temple really links with the belief in the Dharma. So again, Buddha went around teaching his Dharma. The temple is the modern day equivalent of that. Next is the Gompa, which is the meditation hall in Tibetan Buddhism. Again, it's part of the Eightfold Path, because practicing meditation shows right mindfulness. The stupa, or the pagoda, again, that 5-tiered structure, again, that directly links with Buddhist beliefs and teachings like nirvana. So it links to the importance of understanding, which links to nirvana. And the next is the shrine. So the shrine is a focal point for meditation. Offerings are made to express gratitude for the Buddhist teachings. So the Buddhist Dharma is important, However, again, Buddha is not worshipped, he's not a god, and keeping the shrine clean is considered a skillful activity, like that quote says. Great quote to use as well. The monastery is a place where the Sangha, the Buddhist community, live, and the lay Buddhists will come visit the monastery, maybe hear some talks, maybe give some offerings, some dana. The Sangha, again, it's one of the three jewels in Buddhism, so the monastery links directly to Buddhist beliefs. The Buddha Rupa, so is a statue of the Buddha. If in Mahayana Buddhism, it could also be a statue of Bodhisattva. But again, the Buddha is a person who deserves respect. He attained nirvana, so of course he deserves respect. What he had to say is very important for them as well. Bodhisattvas as well, very important, because they are enlightened beings who help others. Again, teachings of karuna or compassion. Candles, so again, this represents light against darkness of ignorance, and it could represent anicca because the candle will eventually burn out. It could also link to dukkha because enlightenment means getting rid of ignorance, so it means you actually understand the way the world is, and means you can escape suffering, you can get dukkha. Flowers, so again, this shows the beauty of life, but also the decay of the flowers over time represents anicca because the flowers are not permanent. Anicca again shows all things are impermanent, and also everything is also connected, so the idea of paticca samuppada. And the last bit is the incense, which is used at the Buddha Rupa. So the incense might symbolize purity, pure speech or right speech as part of the Noble Eightfold Path, and again also following all the different parts of the Noble Eightfold Path to do with ethics. So why do Buddhists worship? Why do Buddhists do puja? Well, some people wonder what the point of worship is if Buddhists are not worshipping or trying to please a god like other religions do. Well, the point of Buddhist worship is to express gratitude and respect for the Buddha and his teachings. It helps develop concentration and helps you become better at meditation. It helps you develop a deeper understanding of your religion because you can do it with your community, the Sangha, or you can do it by yourself. And it gives you time to reflect as well and consider the Dharma. So if you don't understand the Dharma, then you won't be a very good Buddhist. It inspires and helps people achieve more in their religion. It shows a commitment to the following of the Buddhist Dharma. If it's carried out in a temple, puja gives the sense of the Buddhist community coming together and supporting each other. And it also helps a Buddhist get positive karma. So it's through acts of worship that they gain merit. Positive karma making. So some differences then. Well, there are some massive differences in the way shrines and temples work in the Mahayana versus the Theravada traditions. For the Mahayana guys, they will have 3 statues typically. Buddha will be one of them maybe, but it could be the great bodhisattvas as well. So people like Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion, could be also one of the statues there. They're known as a triad because they will sit side by side. So just like in that image, you could have 3 statues side by side. The Theravada temples have one central statue, Rupa, but they often have several smaller Rupas surrounding that one. Again, because they're Theravada Buddhists, the focus is on Siddhartha, so it could be different statues of Siddhartha in different poses. Theravada Buddhists make offerings of the 4 forms, so flowers, incense, food and light, and they can often buy these as a bundle when you arrive at the temple. So if you were a lay Buddhist coming from the village into the temple, you can buy the 4 forms as one purchase and then give it to the statue for offering. In Mahayana Buddhism, there are commonly 7 offerings, 2 water offerings and 1 perfume, as well as the original 4. Okay, so slightly different offerings given to the statues, the rupas. So worship in temples. So worshipping in the temples is usually led by the monks, the bhikkhus, although you can also worship at home or in groups. It involves giving offerings like we've seen, and much of the worship will be on meditation. usually done on mats on the floor, and they might also chant mantras, so phrases over and over again to help bring good karma, spread merit making and concentration as well. Here's another example of a shrine. So as you can see, there is a picture of Siddhartha. There is the offerings given to the shrine, and also the statue or the actual rupa itself. Okay. So the key features of worship: chanting as well. So Buddhists will chant from sacred texts, which were written and recorded records of what the Buddha taught. This could include chanting the 5 moral precepts or the 3 refuges. So again, this is a devotional practice. The person becomes more receptive to the Buddha's Dharma, and it helps calm the mind. The next key feature of worship is the use of malas. So Buddhists will recite a mantra hundreds of times using a mala. So it's kind of like a string of prayer beads. So it helps you count the number of times you've recited that mantra. And a mala usually has 108 beads. The next key feature of worship is sacred texts. So there are thousands of Buddhist books, but it's any text containing the Buddha's teachings. So things like the Dhammapada, which is sayings of the Buddha, and the Jataka tales, which is life stories about the Buddha's life and previous lives. The collective book is known as the Tripitaka, which is then divided into 3 parts, or 3 baskets, and includes those 2 books. So the Dhammapada and the Jataka tales are key texts for Buddhists. The next key feature is meditation. So another important practice in Buddhist traditions is meditation. This involves calming the mind and body and practicing mindfulness. So setting up a shrine makes any place a place of worship. So it can be done in the home. Worship can take place anywhere at any time. It doesn't have to happen in a temple. Worship at a shrine might be seen as merit making though, and merit making, again, it's helping make that positive karma for you and others. Yeah, so when you do these actions, it's not just because they want to do it, they're doing it because guess what, it generates positive karma, and it means that you aren't trying to go out of your way to do something which there's no purpose to it. Yeah, all of the actions Buddhists do are designed to be skillful actions. Yeah, a Buddhist is gonna, there's no good or bad in Buddhism. There's no right and wrong. It's skillful and unskillful. So you want to do actions that are skillful. So make positive karma, merit making, all those things. Dana, so giving offerings to the monks. Yeah, those things are skillful. So items placed on the shrine are a focus for meditation. So an image of the Buddha, it'll help you develop the qualities that Buddha had. So things like compassion, patience, and helps you understand Buddhist teachings. Yeah, if Buddha explained those teachings, then it helps you understand them as well. Yeah, so if Buddha talked about the 4 Noble Truths, then if you practice that meditation, it gives you insight into the 4 Noble Truths. Yeah. So thinking about your thoughts when you're meditating, they're fleeting and they're always bouncing around. Yeah, that is almost like Paticca Samuppada, so they're connected to other things going on in your mind, and also to anicca, impermanence. Yeah, thoughts come into your mind and then go away as well. Some things in the shrine are a reminder of Buddhist teachings. So again, these will help focus Buddhists on those teachings. Again, for example, the light of the candle for enlightenment, the incense for the spreading of feelings of compassion, and they will also maybe chant scriptures at the shrine as well. Again, the main quote here is the time and effort to keep the shrine clean is considered a skillful activity, and this gives it can link to the 3 marks of existence of anicca and also to the 5 precepts as well, so good or skillful actions. The next thing we need to know about is meditation, specifically the 2 types of meditation that AQA want you to know. So one form of Buddhist worship is meditation, and it makes sure Buddhists have right mindfulness and can develop an insight into the nature of existence. So before they begin, Buddhists might recite verses to praise the 3 refuges. So I go to the Dharma for refuge, I go to the Buddha for refuge, I go to the Sangha for refuge. And Theravada Buddhists often recite the 5 precepts. So often there is a focus on body and breath, which means that calm and stability are necessary, and if the mind wanders, they can return to this physical experience. Meditation is a very difficult practice as well. So meditation is mental concentration in order to achieve a state of mind from which one can eventually attain enlightenment. It's physical and mental discipline, and it's one of the elements of the Eightfold Path, so most Buddhists meditate in some form. And there are, broadly speaking, two types, samatha and vipassana. What I would suggest is that you also try and do meditation to understand what it is Buddhists exactly are doing and what are some of the benefits of doing meditation. So why is meditation important to Buddhists? Well, the Buddha meditated. Think about when he was sat under the Bodhi tree, and Buddhists will follow the example of the Buddha. It's proven to have health or well-being benefits, so it improves your mental and physical health. It helps Buddhists achieve their goal of getting nirvana, because you can't get nirvana unless you are practicing all those characteristics and achieving nirvana as a result of that. It helps the development of something called the sublime states, so different qualities which make a Buddhist a skillful person. Okay, so loving kindness, compassion, peace, and joy. Another word for sublime states in Buddhism, they're called the Brahma Viharas. Okay, and also helps to channel or cope with emotions. So in terms of quotes for meditation, there are quite a few, and there's some really good quotes as well. So if you want to link it to achieving nirvana, you could use this quote. So when your consciousness has become ripe or pure like clean water, realization is possible. And that was said by a Zen monk. Dhammapada 111, Buddha said, though one may live 100 years with no true insight and self-control, yet better is the life of one day for a man who meditates in wisdom. Another quote from the Dalai Lama is, when we feel irritation, confront it with breathing. Your mental state will be calm, and meditation is the best way to do this. And then the final quote, Buddha says, those who meditate will be released from Mara's fetter, so basically chains. So another one, a good quote there, because it helps talk about overcoming craving. Yeah, so Tana. So the different types of meditation. The first type we need to know about is samatha meditation. Samatha aims to develop calmness and one-pointedness of mind. So samatha trains the mind not to be distracted by thoughts. So samatha meditation is calmness or mindfulness meditation. It's a bit deeper than that though, because there are 8 trance levels are recognized in samatha meditation. So the first level is being mindful of your breathing, which is the first stage of samatha meditation. Normally our attention is split across many things. Like Buddha said that the human mind is the monkey mind. Yeah, it's constantly bouncing around to different things. Samatha meditation makes Buddhists gently return their attention to their breathing. Thich Nhat Hanh, again, he comes up in the themes paper as well. He said, breath is the bridge which connects life to consciousness, which unites your body to your thoughts. Whenever your mind becomes scattered, use your breath as the means to take hold of your mind again. Okay? So, as part of meditation, there are something called kasenas. So, breathing is the most popular focus in samatha meditation. However, Buddha listed 10 other kasenas, so focus items for meditation. So he said there were things like earth, water, fire, wind, colours like blue, yellow, red, white, space, the idea of space, and the idea of conscious awareness, consciousness. So all it is an item for you to focus on while you're practicing meditation. So what is the purpose of samatha meditation? Well, it's to develop a calm and concentrated mind, and it can be preparation for doing vipassana meditation, so getting that wisdom. So it could be that you do samatha first, and then you move on and do some vipassana afterwards. So Buddhists understand that distraction is a normal part of meditation, and people should not be discouraged by this. There's no way to fail at doing the meditation, but you get better at practicing it over time, hopefully. The next type of meditation is the vipassana meditation. So this sort of meditation is more connected to the idea of wisdom, or pana. than it is to concentration. And Vipassana meditation literally means insight meditation, so insight into the way the world is, so becoming wise or getting wisdom. So the purpose of this type of meditation is to try and gain insight into the true nature of reality, the Dharma, to see things as they really are. They may do this by reflecting upon the three marks of existence, so they might realize that all experience is characterized by anicca, impermanence. Nothing has an independent and unchanging identity, and that attachment leads to suffering. So the meditator who is doing Vipassana meditation will also use mindfulness of breathing, like with the Samatha meditation, but the object of focus is different. So whereas Samatha meditation requires focusing on a kasina, one object, in Vipassana meditation everything can be explored objectively, including things that are personal to the meditator. So the meditator, someone doing Vipassana, might reflect on their body and how people are attached to their bodies, or they could talk about an aspect of their body which they don't like, or they could be entirely detached from their body, so try and gain insight into being detached from your material body. Vipassana meditation helps Buddhists understand how all things are characterized by the three marks of existence and develop a greater awareness about the world. The aim in Vipassana meditation is to understand the true nature of things by thinking about them mindfully. So whereas Samatha meditation includes just developing that power of concentration, so that is the big difference, okay? So Vipassana is about understanding the way the world is, the true nature of things. Samatha is about developing the power of concentration. That is why Buddhists will sometimes do Samatha first and then move on to Vipassana. Okay. So here is another good example of this, and again this kind of links with theme E when we look at prisons. So there's something set up about teaching prisoners mindfulness and meditation. So the Prison Mindfulness Initiative is a new initiative that organises and supports mindfulness-based meditation in Californian prison and jails. So mindfulness is taught not as part of religion, but about having skillful responses to negative emotions. So thinking about this, and again, when we talk about prisons in theme E, do you think this can work? Can prisoners be taught mindfulness through Samatha and Vipassana, and develop better self-control and learn how to do skillful actions? Have a think about that. So far we've looked at Samatha, which is calmness, concentration meditation. We've looked at Vipassana, which is insight meditation into the true nature of things. We now need to look at mindfulness of breathing, so a form of meditation found in some other forms of Buddhism. Zazen, which is a form of meditation in Zen Buddhism, and Zen as well, which is, again, that's a Japanese school of Mahayana Buddhism, and it focuses entirely, or really, just on meditation actually, and studying what Buddha said about meditation and the different bodhisattvas as well. Okay, so Zazen meditation. Well, Zazen is a Japanese word which means seated meditation, and it's practiced in Zen Buddhism. So Zen is all about getting deeper insight into the nature of existence. So the meditator will sit in a relaxed way, focused on mindfulness breathing before beginning, and focuses their awareness on the present moment. So while these thoughts and experiences come and go, the meditator returns to the present moment. And it's quite common in Zazen for a meditator to have a koan, so a statement or question intended to pose a mental dilemma. So, for example, what is the sound of one hand clapping? Yeah, these are questions which are kind of like designed to get them thinking about what it is they believe and what is the nature of the world. This will train the meditator to develop this insight so they can help get enlightenment. A good quote for Zen or Zazen is, sometimes simply by sitting wisdom is collected, which is a Zen proverb which comes from one of the Zen Buddhist books. Okay. Visualization then. So visualization plays a massive part in Buddhist meditation, like we saw with the focus objects and even the cone in Zazen. So visualization means imagining or seeing an object in one's mind. Buddhists will try to imagine an object as fully as they can and examine all the qualities and characteristics of the object. And they'll try to hold the image in their mind for as long as possible. So a good example of this is trying to visualize one of the bodhisattvas, like the medicine Buddha or Avalokiteshvara or even Amitabha Buddha, which could help a Buddhist. So deity visualization is a key practice. So Tibetan Buddhists will visualize a deity when they meditate. So deities for Buddhists are not gods, but any being who is fully enlightened, like a Buddha or Bodhisattva. So the meditator isn't usually focused on physical qualities, but the characteristics of the deity. And essentially what you do is you imagine what this bodhisattva was like, what qualities they have. So are they compassionate, are they kind, are they generous? Yeah, this helps you become a better person. So some Mahayana Buddhists will visualize themselves as a Buddha to help them awaken their Buddha nature, which is, again, they believe is inside every person. So some examples of these bodhisattvas which you can visualize: the medicine Buddha, the blue guy there, he is related to healing. Visualizing this Buddha will help heal them and reduce suffering and might increase their own healing powers. Avalokiteshvara is one of the most popular bodhisattvas. He is the bodhisattva of compassion. He helps others develop their sense of compassion, which helps you get enlightenment. And in Pure Land Buddhism, we have Amitabha Buddha. They worship Amitabha Buddha in the hope that they're going to get reborn in the Pure Land. And if you're reborn in the Pure Land, again, it helps you get enlightenment because there's no suffering, there's nothing bad there, so you can easily get enlightenment when you're in the Pure Land. And they can visualize Amitabha during meditation. Another thing they will use is tankas or mandalas. So a tanka is a detailed painting of a Buddha, so typically seen like above shrines and things like that, but there's an image of Avalokiteshvara there with multiple hands. That's how you know it's Avalokiteshvara. And a mandala. So mandala is an intricate circle-shaped pattern that is used for meditation. They are sacred diagrams that represent Buddhist principles or teachings, and Buddhists who are highly trained in visualization can study a tanka or mandala and imagine in their mind and visualize all of the tiny intricacies. Mandalas, when they are made out of sand, they are destroyed after their use, so it kind of links with anicca as well, because they're impermanent. So, quick recap then of meditation, everything we need to know for this topic. So, Samatha meditation, again, what is it? How is it done? It's a calming meditation. It focuses on breathing and kasinas, so e.g. a jug of water to help focus the mind, or any other sort of kasinas, maybe like a coloured disc. Why is it important? Well, focusing on the kasina leads to one-centeredness of the mind, helps calm down the mind. Again, Buddha described the mind as the monkey mind, so which is always bouncing around, but it calms it down, it leads to concentration. It allows Buddhists to overcome the three poisons, and it can be done to prepare you to do some vipassana meditation afterwards. So what is the impact of doing samatha? Well, it can develop wisdom, as part of the threefold way, the way of wisdom, as part of the Noble Eightfold Path, and it allows you to be calmer in situations of anger. In terms of benefits and challenges, well, it encourages stillness, calmness, develops the power of concentration, helps you avoid distractions, stops you from being attached to wandering thoughts. On the other hand, we've got the Vipassana and Zazen meditation. Well, Vipassana is insight meditation, so insight into the nature of reality and the Dharma. Zazen is a sitting meditation, so it helps you be mindful of your breathing and also develop insight as well. So you focus on a cone, so any sort of logical problem, like one of the ones that's typically used in Zen is, can one hand clap? Vipassana helps understand the true nature of reality, how everything is connected. It helps you get to nirvana. So, for example, like Buddha or an Arhat or Bodhisattva. And Zazen helps understand the deeper meaning of nature's existence. So the impact of these two types of meditation is, again, that insight into the world. You get a greater awareness of the world. You develop right mindfulness. you learn about the Dharma, the nature of reality, and it helps you move towards enlightenment. In terms of benefits and challenges, well, you get that insight, which is the main thing. On the other hand, you could also say maybe instead of doing Vipassana, why don't you just study the Buddhist texts first, because that could be easier. And not all people have the ability to get that insight as well. We don't know how challenging it could be to get that insight from Vipassana. So, when it comes to this topic, you might get a 12 marker which asks you to compare meditation to other sorts of practices. So it's your job in that question to basically say, why is meditation better, and then why is the other sorts of skillful actions more important? Okay, so you could say meditation is more important because the Buddha meditated and Buddhists will want to follow the example of the Buddha. It has those proven health benefits. It helps Buddhists achieve their goal to get to nirvana. Again, that quote by that Zen monk, it said, "When your consciousness has become ripe, pure like clear water, realization is possible." It helps develop the sublime states, the Brahma Viharas, so loving kindness, compassion, peace, joy. Puja, so worship, involves meditation, because you can't get right mindfulness unless you reflect on those qualities that Buddha had. Understanding Buddha's Dharma is more than just doing skillful actions, so you need to reflect on it. And then the Buddha said in Dhammapada 111, he said, though one may live 100 years with no true insight and self-control, it's better the life of one day for a man who meditates in wisdom. On the other hand, you could say that there are other skillful actions which are more important than meditation. So right action, speech and livelihood as they affect other people, so using the Eightfold Path. The Buddha taught about karuna and metta, so compassion and loving kindness, so his focus was on helping others. Again, you could also maybe say that meditating might bring up past trauma, so the rattling hypothesis. So it could be that when a person engages in meditation, it could maybe lead to deep trauma being uncovered. Non-attachment as well. So an aim of meditation is to develop a sense of non-attachment to things. Maybe this could stop you from helping others. Again, maybe it could be that it's more important to remember that meditation is not a cure. So some people might become too reliant on meditation. Some people will struggle to find the time to meditate. And good actions or skillful actions ultimately produce good karma. So meditation sets the mindset for this. The next topic we need to know about is Buddhist beliefs about death and the different funeral practices in Buddhism. Buddhists believe that when a person dies, their karmic energy leaves their body and is reborn into another one. This can be instantly or it can take up to 49 days depending on the type of Buddhist. Some Buddhists believe that there are different realms where there might be things like hungry ghosts or hells, which some people might experience for a short period. Death isn't the end, it's the transfer of karmic energy, is what Buddhists would say. The type of person that someone will be in the next life depends on their merit, their karma in this life. So Buddhists are reminded of impermanence, so anicca, but they still will mourn for their loved ones at a funeral. And a funeral takes place to point out the good things a person has done and remind them of impermanence. So the first set of beliefs we need to know about is the Theravada Buddhists. So traditional Buddhism, they think, like we saw in Buddhist beliefs, that a person is made up of the 5 skandhas. So form, sensation, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So these Buddhists will also use the idea of anatta, which means no fixed self, and it's shown again with King Milinda and the chariot, where Nagasena is asking him about is there such a person as Nagasena, or is he just a collection of parts which are always changing? So as the skandhas are changing all the time and there's no permanent self because of anatta, Buddhists believe that when a person dies, their karmic energy leaves their body and it's reborn into another body. This can be instantly or take 49 days. So again, not all Buddhists believe that you will be reborn as a human. You could be a ghost, you could be in any of those different realms which are on the Tibetan wheel of life. Again, death isn't the end for Buddhists, it's the transfer of karmic energy. And again, the type of person you are in the next life is based on your karma in this life. So your karma propels forward into the next life as well, because it won't just go away, it won't just fizzle out. There has to be somewhere where that karmic energy goes. Okay. The next sort of practice is the Tibetan sky burial. These are the Tibetan Buddhists. Again, they are Mahayana Buddhists, but there's more specific things in Tibetan Buddhism that makes it almost like different from Mahayana Buddhism. So what will happen is that a dying or recently dead person will have the Tibetan Book of the Dead read to them to help achieve liberation during the Bardo stage. So Tibetan Buddhists believe that after a person dies, they travel through the bardos. Okay. Otherwise, there will be a rebirth as well. So at that point, when you're going through the bardos, it's either you achieve nirvana or you're reborn as well. So the Buddhist monks will do rituals such as making offerings, and they will read scripture on behalf of the dead person, and this may continue for up to 49 days, because this is the period of time that Tibetan Buddhists believe you are in the bardo. The corpse is either cremated or fed to vultures. Feeding is seen as a generous act, and it's thought to be more practical. If the person is a revered teacher, they're cremated and their remains are placed in a stupa, which becomes a site of worship as well. So when it comes to the difference between these three traditions, there's three main traditions we need to know about: Theravada, Japanese Buddhism, and Tibetan Buddhism. So in the Theravada tradition, the body is cremated. There might be a bit of a delay while the monks are doing merit making, like chanting. The monks will lead the funeral, and they'll remind everyone about anicca, impermanence of things. Relatives will pour water into an overflowing jar to symbolize giving merit to the deceased, so the overflow of merit or good karma, which is going to pass on to that person. After the funeral, and about a week after the death, a monk will visit the home and will deliver a sermon to the relatives and friends. This is called preaching for the benefit of the dead, and it's supposed to help them get a better rebirth. In Japanese Buddhism, flowers, incense, and a candle are placed near the deceased person's bed, and these are reminders of anicca, again impermanence. The body is washed and dressed and placed in a casket or coffin, and it's positioned with the head facing towards the west, which is the realm of Amida or Amitabha Buddha. Okay? In the hope that almost like that person is going to be reborn in the Pure Land. A Buddhist priest will recite a section from scriptures, while the mourners will offer incense. Flowers are taken to the casket, which is then taken for cremation. In Tibetan Buddhism, a dying or recently deceased person will have the Tibetan Book of the Dead read to them to help them travel through the bardos. The corpse is either cremated or fed to the vultures. It's never buried in Tibetan Buddhism, and there will be rituals and scripture readings on behalf of the dead, which can continue for up to 49 days, because it could be that these 49 days are when the person is travelling through the bardos. So our next topic we need to know about is festivals and retreats. So festivals allow Buddhists to celebrate the important events in the history of Buddhism, and retreats are places where you can go to have intensive practice or study of that religion, where Buddhists will spend time away from their regular life. So what are retreats? Well, retreats involve taking yourself away from the normal concerns and demands of your daily life and leading a simple, focused life, during which your time, the main task is to study the Dharma and meditate. During the 3-month rainy season, the monsoon season, the Buddha actually encouraged his monks to meditate more and retreat from the outside world. Keep in mind, when Buddha was travelling, during the monsoon season, he couldn't travel to those different locations that he wanted to, so he had to retreat and meditate. So retreat has been a practice ever since in Buddhism. It can be seen as a time to relax and also a time to recharge your spiritual energies, and they're also quite common in Christianity as well, so it's not just something in Buddhism. So the first festival we need to know about is Vesak, also spelled Vesak or Buddha Day or Vasaka Puja as well. Lots of different names for this festival, but Vesak is about celebrating the Buddha's birthday. So it's sometimes informally called Buddha's birthday, but it actually commemorates the birth, enlightenment, and death of Siddhartha Gautama. And both Mahayana and Theravada guys will celebrate this occasion. So homes will be cleaned and decorated. In many countries during this festival, Buddhists will visit their local temple for services and teachings. They will give offerings to the monks for food, candles and flowers. Chanting and prayer are also important parts of Vesak. There's something called the bathing the Buddha ceremony. Water is poured over the shoulders of the Buddha as a reminder to purify their own minds from the three poisons of greed, ignorance and hate. Gifts are taken to the altar to be offered to the Buddha statues. This shows respect and gratitude to the Buddha for his life and teachings, and celebrations will vary from one country to another, using different dates because of different calendars, and it might involve different customs. So again, the reason why this is different is because our calendar, the Gregorian calendar, is based on the sun, like in Christianity, but in most of Asia, the lunar calendar still plays a massive role, and the dates of Buddhist festivals are based on the cycle of the moon. So the celebrations in different countries will vary, but they might have cultural features. So in China, there is dancing dragons. In Thailand, lanterns are made from paper and wood, and the release of caged birds, giving liberation to caged creatures, is spreading compassion to all living creatures. In Indonesia, lanterns are made from paper and wood. In Sri Lanka, there will be parades to the temple. In all of these countries, some Buddhists will donate blood to hospitals, others will give away free Dharma books. All over the world, Buddhists will decorate monasteries with Buddhist flags, lanterns and flowers. And because the focus is on the Buddha, Siddhartha, and his enlightenment, they will reflect on this and reflect on the night of his enlightenment. They will spread his teachings as well, so the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the Five Precepts will be a big focus in this celebration. Here are some different examples. So in Mongolia, the releasing of lanterns. In Singapore, they're at the temple, all the Buddhist monks are chanting as part of their celebrations. In Sri Lanka, you've got fireworks, lanterns being set off. The next festival is Parinirvana Day. So this is for the Mahayana Buddhists, and it's celebrated in East Asia. For some people it's celebrated on the 8th of February, but for most it's the 15th of February. It celebrates the day when the Buddha is said to have achieved Parinirvana, which is final nirvana or complete nirvana, where his physical body died and he finally passed on. So it's a solemn occasion, and it gives Buddhists the opportunity to reflect on their own future death and remember loved ones who have died. Anicca, impermanence, is obviously a key feature of this day. The key text for this is called the Mahaparinirvana Sutra. This describes the last days of the Buddha before he enters Parinirvana. It's a Mahayana Buddhist text, so it's not read by Theravada Buddhists. People will spend their day reading and reflecting on these teachings and meditating, either at home or the temple or monastery. It's common for people to join together for this. Some people will also go on retreats as well. It's believed that Kushinagar in India is the place where the Buddha died. Some Buddhists will travel there on a day of pilgrimage to help connect to the Buddha's Dharma. When it comes to the festivals topic, it's important that you're able to say which festival is more important, because again this could be a possible 12 marker about festivals, and knowing the difference between the two festivals, what's good and bad about each of the two festivals. So in terms of Parinirvana Day being more important, it helps Buddhists reflect on the three marks of existence. It focuses on the teachings of the Buddha and meditation to help them get a better understanding of the Dharma. And it gives the opportunity to do intensive study of Parinirvana or final nirvana. Okay, in terms of Vesak being more important, Vesak celebrates everything to do with the Buddha's life, so it might be more helpful. The symbolism of cleaning the home and giving dana or offerings to the monks will teach them, will help them learn the Dharma. And the bathing the Buddha ceremony as part of Vesak will remind Buddhists of the 3 poisons and the need to be purified from them. So, just a quick recap in terms of rebirth. So some Buddhists believe they can be reborn into 6 different realms, like it says on the Tibetan Wheel of Life. And remember, it's karmic energy. There's no self or soul that gets reborn. And rebirth completely depends on your karma in your previous lives. And Pure Land Buddhists believe that rebirth can be in a place separate to karma. So you can be reborn through Amitabha Buddha in the Pure Land, and then you can return as a bodhisattva to one of the 6 realms to help others. Okay. So karma, the law of cause and effect. Karma is going to have a massive impact on your rebirth. That is why it's so important to Buddhist ethics. So karma means action. A Buddhist view of karma is that all intentional actions, all words, all thoughts have consequences either in this lifetime or in a future one. The reason is because of Paticca Samuppada, everything is connected to everything else. The Buddha said the last thought moment of this life gives rise to the first thought moment of the next life, showing the dependent origination of all things. It's something we cannot get away from, and as the Buddha said, there is no place on earth where standing one may be freed from evil action. One example of this is the way in which, through repeated choices and actions, people develop habits that change them. So if you are regularly acting on your anger, it makes you an angry person. You cannot remove negative karma, but you can do merit-making activities to dilute it. Okay, so our rebirth is defined by our karma, and because for Buddhists there is no fixed soul, there's no soul or self. Rebirth means that our karmic energy from this life causes a rebirth, and a good analogy for this is the idea of one candle lighting another candle. This is very different to the Hindu belief in reincarnation of your soul, because anatta literally means no soul. Okay, so anatta is the key belief in Buddhism. There is no soul. There's no soul like in Hinduism or Christianity. So skillful and unskillful actions. So actions can be skillful, upaya kusala, or unskillful. The word in Buddhism is akusala. Skillful actions bring positive future consequences. Unskillful actions bring negative ones. Skillful or unskillful is not the same as good or bad, but it considers the impact that these have. Okay, so Buddhism doesn't have any laws or commandments from God. There's nothing like the 10 Commandments in Buddhism, so there's no idea of sin, because sin obviously means to go against God. The precepts, the 5 precepts, are guidelines, so Buddhists will practice these voluntarily, and with intention. So they are relativists, not absolutists. So while all of the precepts are important for Buddhists, the same actions could be right for one person but not right for another. So it's not like in Christianity with the 10 Commandments, where those 10 actions are always right or wrong. You are not punished for your actions, but you're affected by your own actions. So skillful and unskillful actions have karmic consequences and can affect your way to nirvana. So intentions as well. In Buddhism, intention is just as important as the action. An action is wrong if the intention, the reason for doing it, of the person are based on one of the 3 poisons. So greed, ignorance, and hatred. So this is called akusala mula. So doing something where the intention was one of the 3 poisons. So if you did something out of greed, if you did something out of ignorance, or you did something out of hatred, that is akusala mula. So think about the difference between the intention of an action and its possible consequences. Buddhists need to be mindful of both in order for something to be skillful. So a good action is one that is based on one of the 3 good roots. So the good roots are called the kusalas. So if you do something based on non-attachment, if you do something based on kindness, and if you do something based on understanding, that is a skillful action because it's based on one of the 3 good roots. Buddhists also have to consider their own personality before deciding on the appropriateness of an action. Also, as part of Buddhist ethics, we need to know about karuna and metta. So these are part of the sublime states. Karuna, so again, Buddha said there are 4 sublime states, Brahma Viharas, so qualities that Buddhists should develop over their lifetimes. Karuna and metta are the most important 2. So karuna means compassion for everyone who is suffering. The Buddha taught that the biggest hardship in the world is feeling the suffering of others as if it was your own. This means showing compassion. It means to be moved to do whatever you can to relieve the suffering of others. No one can be truly happy with their own suffering and the suffering of others, therefore it needs to be removed. Mahayana Buddhists believe that karuna is needed to be a bodhisattva. Dalai Lama said that I believe that at the energy of every level of society, the key to a happy and successful world is the growth of compassion. However, compassion alone won't work. It needs to be developed alongside wisdom. So, for example, a scientist who develops a new explosive, but without the wisdom to understand its power, he might sell it to someone who turns it into a weapon. So Buddhists need to use wisdom to help others, and compassion to want to help others as well. The next one is metta. So metta means loving kindness. Buddhists will try to develop a loving, kind, friendly attitude towards themselves and all other living beings. It's a wish for all beings to be happy and free from suffering, even those who are unskillful or who do bad things. Metta is a general desire for people to be happy and moves to karuna when we meet a specific person who is suffering. So metta is wanting a friend to be happy. Karuna is seeing them get hurt and having the urge to help them with their suffering. A good quote, this is from the Sutta Nipata. It says, "Just as a mother would protect with her own life her son, so one should cultivate an unbounded mind towards all living beings and loving kindness to all the world." The Dalai Lama said, "Loving kindness is the wish that all sentient beings might enjoy happiness." So metta dissolves hatred, greed and jealousy and helps overcome suffering and get enlightenment. So it makes a person less easily angered and makes them love unconditionally. Loving kindness meditation is common and it helps people develop an attitude of metta. So there are 5 stages of this metta meditation. First, you show loving kindness to yourself, then to a good friend, then to a neutral person, then to a difficult person, and then you spread loving kindness to the rest of the world as well. So the 3 big ideas in Buddhist ethics, which we've looked at so far: karuna or compassion, so that means you empathise with the suffering of others, you respond to the suffering of all living beings. Karma, again, means actions. Your karma will affect your future lives. Skillful actions with good motives result in good karma. An unskillful action results in suffering. And the last one is metta or loving kindness. So we should try and spread loving kindness. A good quote is, "All living things are worthy of loving kindness," and it gets rid of negative emotions through the spread of loving kindness. The 5 precepts, again, this comes up over and over again in all the different themes topics, but the 5 precepts are to abstain from harm. So many Buddhists are vegan or vegetarian because of that. Number 2, to abstain from what is not freely given, so not stealing and not taking advantage of people. Number 3, to abstain from the misuse of the senses or sexual misconduct, again linking with theme A. 4, to abstain from wrong speech, so not lying or gossiping. And number 5, to not cloud the mind with intoxicants, so alcohol or drugs or anything like that. A good quote here is, "Whoever destroys a living creature and speaks untruth, takes what is not given and goes to another's wife, and whatever man applies himself to drinking liquor or intoxicants, that person digs up his own root here in this very world." So this is a great quote to use if you're talking about the 5 precepts, because Buddha mentions all 5 here. So why are the precepts important? Well, with no God to please, Buddhists will choose to follow these precepts voluntarily. They don't fear punishment from a god. They need to use their own judgment and sensitivity to choose the correct one, to decide what's skillful. and they are ever deepening, so maybe wanting to hurt someone is still unskillful. And applying the precepts purifies them from the 3 poisons and replaces them with wisdom and compassion. So the 5 precepts are something which seems to come up every single year in the exam, so it's really useful that you've prepared for even a 12 mark, which could come up on the 5 precepts in terms of how useful or not useful they are, even in relation to other Buddhist practices or ethics. So in terms of them not being useful, they might conflict with the real world, they could be stressful to follow. Metta meditation might be more useful because this helps you develop a sense of loving kindness to everyone in the whole world. We might sometimes do the right thing without the correct motive. What if your intention was to do harm and then you ended up doing something good? Does following rules really change our mindset in the same way that karuna or learning the Dharma does? And maybe they're far too idealistic. Human nature maybe can't be improved. In terms of them being useful, it purifies the mind of the 3 poisons and replaces them with wisdom and compassion. One Buddhist monk said, "We keep working, we are patient, as our minds get clearer and clearer, automatically the precepts are maintained." Maybe practicing the precepts makes them an automatic habit over time. Maybe avoiding intoxicants, the 5th precept, ensures the mind remains clear and correct motives can be used. Maybe skillful actions require the right motive. Once the precepts are part of you as a person, you will do them for the right reasons. And maybe it's, like the Buddha said, prevents us from digging up his root here in this very world. So it keeps us grounded to the Dharma by following the precepts. The final thing we need to know as part of Buddhist practices and Buddhist ethics are the 6 paramitas. These are typically forgotten about, but make sure you revise these because if you don't, these could come up in the exam. It hasn't yet, but there's a good chance it might come up this year. So these are 6 character traits that Mahayana Buddhists try to develop to become bodhisattvas. So why are they important? Well, the 6 perfections are important as they allow a Buddhist the opportunity and the means to follow the Buddha's Dharma. This allows them to reach enlightenment, which is what all Buddhists attempt to achieve in their lifetime. The 6 perfections give guidelines as a structure for how to live a good life and behave in a morally good way. So some examples of morally good behaviour include being generous and charitable, putting other people before yourself, always telling the truth and being mindful of other people's feelings. So what are they? And what's important to know about each of the 6, because they're not just 6 words which mean nothing, they are very important. For generosity, there are 3 types which I will mention for Tibetan Buddhists as well. Morality, so the rest of the precepts are used and how they may feel at the start. It also links with meditation. Patience is important, think about why is this needed. Energy, what does this mean? Meditation, again, links with morality, and wisdom, which links to insight meditation as well. So the 6 perfections, the first one is generosity, which means to give material goods, freedom from fear, giving away the Dharma. In Tibetan Buddhism, they are material gifts, protection from fear, and giving the Dharma. The second one is morality, which means following the 5 moral precepts. There are 5 extra precepts for Mahayana Buddhists. It's also about knowing which actions are good or bad. The second perfection, so conservation on morality or keeping moral. The third one is patience. That means enduring hardship and suffering, but showing compassion to those who show anger. So it's about taking your time, patiently waiting for enlightenment, practicing compassion to those who show anger. Number 4 is energy. This could be mental energy to get enlightenment, or also being enthusiastic about the Dharma, the Buddha's teachings. Number 5 is meditation, and number 6 is wisdom. So all the perfections influence wisdom and meditation. So the first 4 lead directly into 5 and 6. Following the others helps develop concentration to achieve the 6th perfection, which is wisdom. We could also say for number 5, meditation, it's a way of helping a person attain the highest state of consciousness. So it's almost like a spiritual exercise, or samatha meditation as well, so concentration. And the final one, wisdom, it's again, if you follow the first 5, you get the 6th one. So a bodhisattva has perfect wisdom and compassion as a result of this. Okay, so that is everything you need to know for Buddhist practices. Good luck with your exam, and if there's any questions, please let me know.